Expediting with Lucy. Got a load out of southern Arkansas to extreme southeastern South Carolina. It was an overnight run, 1,000 miles. It was due at noon. I got there at 8:30 in the morning because you want to get on the clock as fast as humanly possible. Get back on the board. You don't want to eat up half a day if you can avoid it. Spent the rest of the day it was a Friday, spent the rest of the day waiting to see if I could load. The problem is southeastern South Carolina is not exactly the bastion of manufacturing that you would think it was. And then I ended up going south to Charlotte, hanging out there, and then I spent the night, and then I ended up driving up to Greenville Saturday. And getting a load on a Saturday can be a little tricky. Getting a load on a Sunday can be absolutely impossible. But by some miracle, my dispatcher got me a load at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, local, going to northern Minnesota, $1 a mile. So I'm getting $1,300 to run 2 pallets of whatever that stuff is back there, 2,500 pounds, up to Minnesota due Monday morning. I got to kind of keep moving and make it on time. But this made for a perfect weekend run. A little tight on the schedule, but a weekend run. What I'd like to talk about is navigation. Obviously, GPS is the way things are done. When I was doing my research, all you read about it, all these truckers and people say, oh, you gotta have a map, you gotta have a map. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So when I came out here, I just relied on my GPS, and I had an accordion map that was the eastern side of the United States, and I kind of threw it, on the dash pad. I don't need it. Yeah, you need a map, because you need to get a sight picture of what you're doing. This means you got to kind of see what you're up against and what you're going around. You start learning things on the map. And personally, I've only been prior to starting this job, I'd only been to the northeast part of the United States once since the 1980s. And I had no familiarity with the roads up there. And I can tell you, the northeast part of the country is toll road crazy. And for some reason, the higher the tolls, the worse the roads. It just doesn't make sense. GPS doesn't tell you all this stuff. Get out your map, lay it out and look at it. You'll see if the roads are blue, it's an interstate. If the roads are green, it's a toll road. So you got to kind of learn, how do I avoid that? And of course, the toll roads are by a wide margin the most convenient way to drive around. That gets a little annoying. There's also a phenomenon, I think it's in New York, and it might be in New Jersey, something I've never heard of. They have parkways, and it says, as you're entering the parkway, literally, for passenger cars only. Not pickup trucks. Literally. No trucks, no vans, no tool trucks. It just says passenger cars only. My first run, using the GPS alone, took me from South Carolina to Connecticut. And it took me the most expensive way I could possibly get there. It was like $56 in tolls. Again, I didn't know any better. And I got on a parkway, and for a very short distance. I know it's supposed to be there, but I figured, let's take me up here and I'll get off. Well, I went around a corner, and there was a bridge with a 9-foot clearance. And I have 9 feet 2 inches, and I have a 9-foot van. Just before I put the air conditioner on it. So I saw that, swerved into the left lane because the bridge had an arc to it. It looked higher on the other side. It slowed way down and got under it, and I was like, oh, time to get off, and I did instantly. That was mildly annoying. I made my load, and then I started looking, and then I actually bought a map up there, and I started looking at it, and I made some phone calls. My uncle's been driving trucks since trucks were invented. He's retired recently. And it turns out, and I will pass this on to you, if you are going to New England, and I don't really care where you're coming from, Scranton, Pennsylvania is your pivot point. Get to Scranton, then turn and go where you need to go. When you leave New England, shoot for Scranton, and then turn and go wherever you need to go. That's the pivot point that gets you around that area, because if you cut through New York, New Jersey, you're going to get slapped with some tolls. It's absolutely incredible. And a lot of them aren't the booths where you pull up and pay them. It's the booths where they just take your picture and charge you whatever they feel like charging you. So Scranton, Pennsylvania, you go around, and I think the tolls to get up into New England are like $6. Like, who cares? You actually pay for it. But you got to watch out for that, and you need to look at a map, and you need to start talking to people, and you'll realize there are a lot of ways to get around a lot of these toll roads and to avoid that, because that's just added expense, just biting straight into your profits. That's all it's doing. So that's all I really want to talk about. Use your GPS. I have a GPS on my dashboard, an old school one that uses satellite, and I have Waze on my phone. I use them both, but just driving down the road, I use the dash mounted old school satellite GPS because it always has reception. Now you think in 2022 your phone would have reception everywhere you go in this country, and I can assure you it does not. There's in the mountains of eastern Tennessee, you got nothing. I mean, for like an hour, you got nothing. My dispatch freaked out when I disappeared off the radar scope for an hour, and then I finally got back in reception, and they were losing their minds trying to figure out where I was. And I'm like, off the map, sorry. Same for southern Arkansas, big area there. You just don't have phone reception. So relying on just your phone is going to leave you blown in the wind. Also, you're going to be using your phone to talk, to listen to music or a podcast or whatever. You're going to use your phone for other aspects of your job. So I like the GPS on the dash, which is totally standalone, and that's all it's doing. So no matter where your phone is or what screen's on it, the GPS on your dash is giving you the navigation you need. Now, when I get close to my destination, I will use both of them with the same address because sometimes they don't agree. I mean, they're not miles apart. It might be, 0.4 of a mile difference. So you pull up and this one zeroes out and says you're here, and you look around and go, no, I'm not. And this one says, oh, it's 0.4 or that way. Then you can kind of split the difference. You go, oh, okay, it's telling me it's further, and that way it actually works. I've actually found things because of that. But you need to have a map. I don't mean accordion maps. I mean the big spiral ones you see for sale at truck stops that are very large, and you can flip open to a page. You really have to look at where you're going to avoid problems, and you'll figure that out real quick. All right, so this is Expediting with Lucy. That's mine for today. Talk to you later.